Have you ever felt like your family's love just wasn't enough? What if, no matter how much you gave, it was never appreciated? Ashley has always lived in the shadow of her stunning sister Brittany, receiving little affection from their parents. Overlooked and unfairly blamed for everything, Ashley worked hard to make a living, sending money home in hopes of gaining approval. But when her parents started comparing her contributions to Brittany's, accusing her of being selfish, Ashley realized she was being manipulated. After years of feeling like an outsider, Ashley decides to stand up for herself, facing the painful truth about her family and her own worth. Was my family joking? I couldn't believe the small amount they were mentioning. Just the other day, my phone had been buzzing nonstop with calls from my parents. When I finally answered, they started shouting before I could even get a word in. At first, I couldn't make sense of what my dad was saying, leaving me completely confused. Later, I realized they were furious about the money they claimed I was supposed to be sending. They said my sister, Brittany, was sending them $112,000 a month, while they accused me of sending them only 80 cents. But that wasn't true. I had been sending them $112,000 every month just like Brittany. You must be lying, they insisted. Brittany, with her modeling career, makes more than you. She sends us $112,000 every month. We are so disappointed in you. Brittany is so thoughtful, my father grumbled, clearly upset. My mom added to the criticism, complaining about my lifestyle. Do you think it's okay to just live on your own, spending all your money? Why can't you be more like your sister? She cares about us so much, she sighed heavily. I've always known that they favored Brittany. She was beautiful, stunning, really, and turned heads wherever she went. Meanwhile, I was often ignored, overlooked, and compared to her. People would praise her beauty, joking about how plain I looked next to her. From a young age, it was clear to everyone that Brittany was destined for success, whether in acting or modeling. My parents lavished attention on her, always making sure she had the latest clothes and enrolled her in any class she wanted. On the other hand, I made do with hand-me-downs and didn't get the chance to pursue any extracurricular activities. Brittany grew up spoiled, entitled, believing that whatever was mine was also hers. She'd take my things without asking, and whenever I protested, my parents would tell me, "Let it go, Ashley, she's younger, be a good older sister." They dismissed my feelings so easily, always taking her side. Over the years, this favoritism only deepened. In elementary school, when Brittany decided she wanted my room, my parents didn't hesitate to move me. They displaced me to the living room, claiming I didn't have many belongings and that there was enough space for me to sleep there. The living room, where I slept among old family portraits, became my new bedroom. Feeling completely overlooked and undervalued, I decided to stop sending money home. I thought it was time to make a point. I'm Ashley, a 31-year-old working at a food processing company, living with the weight of being the less favored child, while my stunning sister, Brittany, 6 years my junior, enjoyed all the limelight and affection that I never received from our parents. Despite the cold treatment and the harsh comparisons, I carried on, holding on to the memory of my grandparents who had always cherished me. Growing up, my name, Ashley, was chosen by my grandfather during the vibrant spring season, when Ashleys were blooming. He loved those flowers for their resilience. As a child, I would sit on his lap, surrounded by his warmth, listening to his comforting words. Ashley, no matter how tough things get, you can always push through. After the hardships, happiness will bloom again, just like Ashley's in spring. Those words from my grandfather stayed with me, especially during the hardest times. As I grew older, it became evident that my parents treated me and my sister Brittany very differently. I never really felt at home in my own house. When I expressed my dream of becoming a school nurse and wanted to discuss university entrance exams, my parents immediately dismissed the idea. "We can't afford university fees for you. Think about your sister Brittany. We need to save for her future," they insisted. Though financially we were an average family, not struggling by any means, my dreams were pushed aside to prioritize Brittany's aspirations. After high school, while Brittany went off to a prestigious university, I entered the workforce, landing a job at a small to medium-sized company, a few train stops away from her home. Eventually, I moved out and rented a small studio apartment near work. It was a relief to be on my own, away from the constant comparisons and favoritism at home. Brittany, meanwhile, flourished at university and was soon scouted by a talent agency during a shopping trip with friends. My parents were over the moon, constantly talking about her modeling career. One day, Brittany called me, her voice full of excitement and gratitude. "We owe everything to Mom and Dad," she said. "Let's start giving them $112,000 each month to show our appreciation." The amount shocked me. $112,000 was a lot of money, and while modeling might pay well, I was only making about $66,000 a month at my job. If I agreed, I'd have to cut my expenses drastically, and even then, I'd need to find extra income. Reluctantly, I decided to take on weekend work as a security guard at a construction site. The job paid well but was physically grueling. Summers were scorching and winters bitterly cold. Many times I thought about quitting. Despite the difficulties, I continued, driven by a mix of family loyalty and the desire to not feel lesser than my sister. Deep down, I clung to my grandfather's words, hoping that after these hard times, happiness would once again bloom for me, just like the Ashleys of spring. Despite the challenges of balancing a demanding job and certification studies with little sleep, my coworkers showed unexpected kindness. They often bought me drinks and food, realizing the effort I was putting in. I was doing everything I could to save money, cutting back on eating out and other unnecessary expenses, but reaching the monthly $112,000 I promised to send home was still a stretch. Determined to boost my income, I decided to earn a professional certification. I dedicated every spare moment to studying, the days blurring into a fast-paced mix of work and learning. In this hectic schedule, I missed several calls from my parents. When I finally had a moment to call them back, I was met with immediate anger. "You are horrible! What do you think of us?" my father yelled as soon as I answered, with my mother's voice echoing an agreement in the background. Confused, I asked, "What's wrong? Are you talking about the money I send?" I couldn't understand their anger. "Do you know how much Brittany is sending? $112,000. And you send just 80 cents? Are you mocking us?" my father accused. "That's impossible." "I am sending $112,000 monthly," I replied firmly, shocked by their claims. "Don't lie. Brittany earns more than you from her modeling, so she's the one sending us $112,000 each month. I'm really disappointed in you. Brittany is so smart," my father continued, his tone full of disappointment. My mother chimed in, criticizing my lifestyle and accusing me of not caring about the family as much as Brittany did. I was dumbfounded, overwhelmed by sadness, unable to find the right words. It hit me like a ton of bricks there had been a huge misunderstanding. Brittany had suggested we keep our contributions anonymous under the pseudonym Rainbow. At the time, I didn't realize that Brittany's stage name was Rain. It turned out that the transactions of 80 cents had been mistakenly recorded under my name, Ashley, while Brittany's $112,000 contributions were correctly credited to her. Before I could explain the mix-up, my parents made it clear they didn't want my mocking 80 cents. They hung up without a second thought. The anger and betrayal I felt toward Brittany were overwhelming. She had never clarified our arrangement, and now everything was spiraling out of control. Sleepless nights followed, my mind in turmoil, as I questioned whether I should continue sending money at all. I decided to seek advice from Tiffany, my high school friend who worked at a consulting firm. Tiffany had always been someone I could rely on for grounded, honest advice, and I knew she'd offer a fresh perspective. When I met her for lunch, she noticed the distress on my face immediately. "What happened?" she asked with concern. I opened up about the situation with my family, explaining the confusion about the money. After hearing me out, Tiffany paused before speaking thoughtfully. "Are your parents struggling financially? Aren't they in their 80s?" she asked. She seemed just as stunned by the $112,000 amount, and she mentioned, "It seems like they have debts." "It's money spent on us," I replied, explaining the nature of the contributions. Tiffany's perspective helped me see things more clearly. You say it's money spent on both of you, but you didn't even go to university, right? Isn't it mostly for Brittany? She was pointing out that my parents still had their own income, and that it seemed unlikely they'd suddenly need so much money. Your dad is still working too, right? There's no need for you to send $112,000 a month. It's unimaginable they suddenly need that much when they've been fine for so long. Her words hit home, and it dawned on me that maybe I should consider stopping the payments, especially since my parents thought my contribution was only 80 cents. Perhaps that was their way of telling me I didn't need to continue. You're too kind, Ashley. You shouldn't let yourself be pushed around like this, Tiffany said, her voice firm but comforting. Her advice really resonated with me, and I made up my mind not to let my family's pressure dictate my actions anymore. 3 months later, my phone rang incessantly one morning. It was Brittany, furious. Why haven't you been answering your phone all morning? And why did you stop sending money on your own? What were you thinking? She demanded, her voice dripping with frustration. I felt overwhelmed by her accusations. Life was already challenging enough, and the weight of her frustration felt like too much. But thanks to Tiffany, I had learned that Brittany's so-called financial contributions weren't really about helping our parents. Instead, they were more about maintaining her pride and keeping up with our parents' lavish lifestyle. Tiffany, who had discreetly gathered information, discovered that Brittany was constantly splurging on clothes and cosmetics, complaining to her friends, "My big sister is my source of funds, so I rely on her money." Lately I've been struggling because I don't have money for my sister. I might have to cut back on facials and cosmetics for a while. It was clear now that Brittany was using me, and I wasn't going to let her guilt-trip me into continuing to support a lifestyle that wasn't even necessary. I knew I had to set boundaries, no matter how hard it would be. It also came to light that my mother was indulging in luxury brands, and my father was not working but gambling. Supporting their wasteful lifestyles with my hard-earned money felt absurd. Do you think I don't know Dad isn't working, so my money isn't needed, right? I confronted them later. My parents approached me after the $112,000 monthly payments had stopped. They had finally talked to Brittany, who, through tears, admitted that she hadn't been making nearly as much as she claimed, and that she was a burden on her modeling agency. Despite her cute appearance, she lacked talent in singing or dancing, which hindered her success in the entertainment industry. Her modeling gigs were sporadic and low-paying, often for inexpensive online catalogs. The truth of her situation led to a sharp turn in my parents' attitudes. "We've been strict with Brittany. You don't worry and continue sending money as before," they said unapologetically, demanding the 3 months of payments I had withheld. Their audacity astounded me. They even added, "We've prepared for 3 months, so please deposit it when you can. You are reliable, after all." Their unrelenting greed prompted me to question them further about their financial status, something that had been nagging at me. I heard from Brittany that there was some debt. "Is that true?" I inquired, seeking clarity on the family's financial matters. "Debt? There's no way. We covered the tuition with your grandparents' inheritance," they responded dismissively. This conversation revealed the deep discrepancies between what I was led to believe and the reality of my family's financial and moral landscape. It became clear that I needed to make decisions based not just on familial obligation, but on a fair assessment of the actual needs and the truth behind the request for money. My father stated confidently that Brittany's claims about our parents having debt were simply untrue. "We just need a bit more for shopping," my mother added casually. Since they believed my father's salary was sufficient, it was evident that they were managing fine financially without needing any contribution from me. "Why doesn't Dad get a full-time job then?" I questioned, feeling increasingly frustrated with the situation. My father sharply retorted, "Is that how you speak to your own parents? I didn't raise a daughter to act like this." My mother echoed his sentiment. "We don't need a daughter like you if you're going to be like that." Then they threatened to use the savings that my grandfather had left specifically for me, saying, "We'll just use your grandfather's savings for you. You're no longer part of this family." They expressed their willingness to cut ties over this, which left me deeply shocked and hurt. After they left, I broke down, feeling utterly disposable and questioning my value to my own family. 3 months of silence passed before my doorbell unexpectedly rang. Standing there were my parents and Brittany. I hesitated but opened the door, puzzled by their worn and tired appearances, which contrasted sharply with my improved situation since they last saw me. I've been working hard, studying diligently to obtain a small business consultant certification, which significantly boosted my salary. Tiffany had helped me land a new job where I was now a team leader, enjoying a fulfilling work life and even considering moving closer to work to a better apartment. "What's with the luxury?" my parents and Brittany asked, almost accusingly, noticing my nicer clothes and healthier appearance. "Before you indulge in such luxuries, give us some money," they demanded, pleading for financial help as if entitled to it. They seemed desperate, yet unapologetic about their direct demands. Disgusted with their attitude, I confronted them with Dad's and Brittany's income. "You can live comfortably. What's really going on?" I challenged. Brittany, tears welling up, revealed her ongoing struggles in the modeling industry, which were far harsher than she had let on. She had been scouted by another agency and decided to invest a significant sum to join, believing it would kickstart her acting career. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a scam, and the agency vanished with their money, leaving no traces behind. At that moment, a representative from a consumer finance company appeared at my door, asking if I was related to my parents. They had traced my address and were following up on a debt. It turned out my family had borrowed a large sum of money, hoping Brittany's career would take off quickly. On top of that, Brittany had been spending lavishly at nightclubs to relieve stress, further sinking the family's finances. I was shocked by their recklessness and irresponsibility. When the agent asked if I was family, I responded firmly, "I don't know these people at all. I have nothing to do with them." It was a harsh response, but one that I needed to protect myself from the mess they'd created. This moment marked a definitive break not just emotionally, but legally from my family's destructive patterns. In the aftermath, my parents filed for bankruptcy. Their debts were wiped clean, but the price was steep. They had to sell our family home and move into a modest apartment. Despite everything, they managed to find jobs through a temp agency and were scraping by. Ironically, my father ended up working at the same construction site where I had previously worked part-time. On his first day, a coworker greeted him with, "It's the old man. Help me out here. There used to be a young lady here before, but she quit. She worked hard sending money to her parents." I'd love to see the faces of parents who'd make their daughter work here. My father's expression tightened as he heard the words. Meanwhile, Brittany's life continued to spiral. Having abandoned her modeling aspirations, she tried her hand at the nightlife scene. Her self-centered attitude didn't resonate with customers, and she was quickly dismissed from various clubs. Eventually, she ended up making a meager living from a small bar, her once glamorous image now faded. "A model? Who are you kidding? Look in the mirror," people mocked. The truth of her decline was stark and painful. As for me, I finally severed ties with my family, determined to focus on rebuilding my own life and moving forward. 6 years later, I found myself at Tiffany's wedding, held in a picturesque chapel overlooking the sea in Tampa, USA. The vast, endless blue seemed to mirror the endless possibilities before me. Tiffany, who had focused on her career, had fallen in love with a colleague, and now, here she was, beaming with pride beside her husband. During the reception, Tiffany leaned over to me, her radiant smile lighting up the room. "Ashley, you should also face your feelings. I achieve everything I want on my own and quickly discard what I don't need." Her husband jokingly added, "Don't throw me away, okay?" Their love and independence were inspiring. Tiffany's wedding wasn't just a celebration of love, it was a celebration of freedom, the freedom she had helped me find. I looked at her, filled with gratitude, and said, "Tiffany, be happy. I'm really grateful to you." As the evening unfolded, Tiffany introduced me to one of their friends, Ethan. He was tall, well-built, with a charming smile, and ran an architectural firm. "I wanted to introduce Ethan to you, Ashley. Your personalities are almost the same," Tiffany teased, sparking laughter among us. Ethan and I hit it off immediately. We shared a meal together, and as we talked and laughed, I felt a sense of excitement and hope. For the first time in a long while, I felt like something new was blooming inside me, much like the Ashleys my grandfather had always admired. Looking ahead, I knew I wanted to embrace both my career and love, living life to the fullest. I whispered quietly to myself, "Grandpa, please keep watching over me from above. I'll make sure to blossom fully." With that, a smile spread across my face as I looked toward the future, knowing that no matter what came my way, I was ready to take it on stronger and more determined than ever. Ashley's emotional journey has been long and painful, shaped by years of neglect and favoritism. Growing up in a household where her worth was measured against her sister Brittany's success, Ashley has been forced to carry the emotional burden of being constantly overlooked. The stark contrast in treatment from her parents praising Brittany while disregarding her created a deep sense of inferiority and resentment. Ashley's choice to stop sending money home is a pivotal moment in her psychological growth. It reflects her decision to reclaim control over her life and emotions, finally standing up for herself in the face of exploitation. The pressure Ashley felt to meet her parents' financial demands, despite her own struggles, led her to push herself to the limits, even taking on a physically demanding job as a security guard. This shows her deeply ingrained sense of duty and desire to prove her worth, not just to her family, but to herself. The realization that her family's financial demands were based on Brittany's exaggerated claims, coupled with Tiffany's advice, was the turning point. It illuminated the unhealthy dynamic and the exploitation Ashley had been enduring. Tiffany's support served as a catalyst for Ashley's decision to stop enabling her family's destructive behaviors. Ashley's confrontation with her family and the subsequent severing of ties marks a profound shift in her mindset. She stops seeking validation from her family and begins to prioritize her own well-being. This psychological transformation is essential for her healing. As Ashley moves forward, the support from her friends and the opportunity to embrace her career and new relationships, like with Ethan, symbolize the blossoming of Ashley's true self. Do you think Ashley's decision to stop supporting her family was the right one, considering the years of emotional neglect? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.
Mom, I missed you. What's wrong? What happened? Dad said I'm stupid and he doesn't need me. He said dealing with an idiot is a waste of time and money. And to just do whatever without him. It's okay, you're a genius. No, I'm not. I can't study like my brother, nor am I the best at soccer. Like Dad said, I'm stupid and can't do anything. That's not true. You have talents that match your brother. Talents that are unique to you. Mom knows it. The real fool is Dad. One holiday, after I finished my errands and returned home, my younger son was curled up in his room. It seemed that my husband had left the house, taking only our eldest son, who is considered a prodigy. I would agree to a divorce. 15 years later, I've started a new job, and as part of that job, I was conducting a job interview. Please, come in. Why are you here? At the interview, my ex-husband was surprised to see me. But this level of surprise was nothing to me. I am Amy, a 38-year-old working at an IT company. My husband Garrick is 2 years older. And we have been married for 12 years. We met at work. We both work in web marketing at the same company. It's not a dramatic love story, just an office romance. After getting married, I changed departments, but I still work at the same company as my husband. We have 2 sons, Alex, our 10-year-old eldest, and Nat, our 8-year-old youngest. From the outside, it might look like we have a perfect family, successful in both careers and parenting. However, I've been troubled by something for about 5 years. Is this recording and the next construction? Amazing, Alex. You can read such difficult words and you're still in kindergarten. While watching a quiz show as a family, our 5-year-old eldest son was able to answer the questions easily. My husband and I were more focused on our son's answers than the show itself. Of course, he can't read the most difficult words yet, but he can almost guess all the elementary level ones correctly. You're a genius. You'll grow up to be a much finer adult than us. My husband ruffled our eldest son's hair vigorously, praising him. Our son looked annoyed, but also seemed pleased. Some might think we're just doting parents for making a big deal out of him being able to read a few words. But his genius isn't limited to just reading words. Hey, listen. Today at kindergarten, a friend caught a praying mantis. But the teacher said it was sad and to let it go outside. I know the teacher is scared of bugs, though. She looked fine. But I think she was actually scared. Maybe she thought we'd prank her with the mantis if we knew she was scared of bugs. It was so funny seeing her try to act brave. During dinner, our eldest son excitedly shared his experiences from kindergarten. He was so engrossed in his story that his eating paused. As a 5-year-old, it's normal for children to talk about their day nonstop. However, the way he narrates his day, using conjunctions and constructing well-thought-out sentences, makes it easy to understand him. It feels like talking to an upper elementary school student. In addition to literacy and conversation, he can also handle simple math and science. What's remarkable about our eldest son is that he has been learning on his own, without us teaching him or sending him to cram schools. I believe a significant reason my eldest son was able to learn on his own was the children's tablet I bought him when he was 3 years old. The tablets and learning apps these days are incredible. That's part of it, but it's really Alex's own abilities that are amazing. He's a genius. Watching our eldest son practice writing words on a tablet in the living room, my husband looked proud. I also think our son is a genius. But I don't want to be seen as just a doting parent. So I force myself to believe that it's not just him, it's the technology that's impressive. However, I can't deny he's a genius when something undeniable happens. The cram school teacher was surprised, wasn't he? Yes, Alex scored perfect marks on the entrance test, which included problems up to a 3rd grade level. He answered them all easily. That's why the teacher was so surprised and said, "This child is a prodigy." The teacher's endorsement settles it. We're not just doting parents. As we spread out the perfect score test papers on the table, our expressions couldn't help but soften. When our eldest son started elementary school, we decided to enroll him in a cram school. We planned to do it eventually, but we thought it was time since there are limits to learning with a tablet alone. I'll stop by the cram school on my way home from school today. Got a question for the teacher? Yes. I'll also study in an empty classroom. Okay, I'll pick you up from the cram school after work. Our eldest son put on his shoes and cheerfully went to school. To anyone else, he might look like any other elementary school student. I waved goodbye to him without turning back. He seems to enjoy studying more at the cram school than on his own. He feels it's more efficient than studying alone, and he seems to have fun. Studying is a struggle for an ordinary person like me, but to him, it's more interesting than games. Perhaps that's the difference between an ordinary person and a genius. While this has turned into a brag about our eldest son, the reason I've been troubled for the past 5 years is precisely because of his genius. With our prodigy eldest son getting all the attention, people always talk about him. But we also have our youngest son, Matt. Unlike his older brother, Matt isn't a prodigy, he's just a normal child. He couldn't read words or do math and science from kindergarten like his brother. But what does that matter? People focusing solely on our eldest son is unavoidable. However, as their mother, I love them both equally. I don't treat our eldest son specially because he's a prodigy. And I show the same affection to Matt as I do to his older brother. Enrolling our eldest son in cram school wasn't special treatment. It was just what was best for him. When Matt started elementary school, he became interested in soccer. So we enrolled him in a local soccer club. I pick him up when practice ends late. And I've bought him balls and gear. Matt seems to have a more active personality than his older brother. Hey, brother. Can you help me with my homework? Again? What don't you understand? With a look of discontent for having to stop his own studies, the elder son, Alex, teaches his younger brother, Matt, how to solve a problem. Alex seems reluctant but has never refused Matt's requests. Alex and Matt have different interests, studies for Alex, and sports for Matt, and their personalities are quite different. But they get along well. In our family, nobody treats Alex and Matt differently. Except for one person. Alex. I heard from the cram school teacher that you topped the test again. They said your abilities could easily rank at the top nationwide. It doesn't really matter to me. No, it does matter. You deserve a reward for your results. Is there anything you want or something you'd like to do? It's okay. You just took me to the botanical garden. Don't hold back. It's my job as a father to make your studying easier. Then, I could use some new highlighters, mine are almost out. All right, leave it to me. I'll get you a pack of 10 colors. Keep up the good work. As my husband pats Alex on the back while he studies in the living room. He praises him and offers rewards for his good test scores. Alex looks a bit annoyed by this. Now that Alex is 10 and Matt is 8. There's a significant difference in their academic abilities. Neither I nor Alex and Matt care about this. But my husband seems to only clearly favor Alex. My husband buys various things only for Alex. He took Alex alone to the botanical garden. Because Alex wanted to observe the plants there. Deciding that there was no need for Matt and me to go. Matt, don't just play soccer, take a page out of your brother's book and study more. You can't make a living off soccer, you know. Watching Matt, who was previously enjoying TV next to his studying brother. My husband's smile suddenly disappeared. Matt had finished his homework before watching TV. And Alex never minds the noise while he studies. This is self-study. Therefore, it's not like Matt is slacking off. However, since he hasn't produced results in either studies or soccer, my husband equates it to slacking off. Indeed, competition is important in society. But this is too early for an 8-year-old Matt, and I can't accept my husband's words. Hey. Matt is trying his best in his own way, that's enough. Why do you make such comparisons with Alex? If effort is enough, what if no results come from it? It means nothing. Why is there such a difference between our children? What do you mean by difference? Matt is fine as he is. I couldn't hold back and yelled at my husband, but he, believing he was correct, just smirked and walked out of the living room. My husband's favoritism towards Alex started about 5 years ago. And his treatment of Matt has gradually worsened. I've tried to call him out on it. But his attitude hasn't changed, leaving me frustrated. Seeing Matt looking down as if he did something wrong made me sad. He turned off the TV he was watching and went to his room. At 8 years old, he understands adult conversations. Surely, my husband's words hurt him. I followed my husband to the bedroom and yelled at him again. "What are you thinking?" Matt looked so sad. His mental weakness is also a problem. You need a strong mentality to achieve results in studies or sports, right? Maybe I should train Matt's mentality. My husband seemed to have come up with another bad idea, grinning again. His expression looked devilish to me, and while I was initially angry, I soon felt frightened. Don't say things that make Matt sad anymore. I suppressed my fear and warned my husband loudly. The true nature of this fear would soon become apparent. The next evening, as usual, Matt watched TV in the living room. After finishing his homework, and Alex studied without caring about the TV noise. My husband abruptly walked over to Matt, grabbed the remote from the table, and turned off the TV. "Don't slack off. Why do you have such a habit? Look at your brother, he's studying, isn't he? Shouldn't you be studying too? All you do is play soccer until late evening, what will that get you? Can you be the best at soccer? If not, you can't make a living with it. You'd better study a bit for your future. If you don't study, I'll kick you out of the house." Matt, not understanding why he was being suddenly yelled at, began to cry silently. Alex stopped studying as well. The fear towards my husband paralyzed me, Alex, and Matt for a few seconds of silence. Unable to bear the silence any longer, Matt abruptly stood up from the sofa and ran to his room crying. Suddenly saying such things, "What are you thinking?" Not wanting to argue in front of Alex, I grabbed my husband's arm and dragged him to the bedroom. "Ouch, let go. What are you thinking?" Suddenly berating Matt like that. I thought maybe Matt's lack of thoroughness in studies and sports is because of a weak mentality. So, I thought I'd yell at him when he slacks off or fails to produce results. Maybe that'll instill some stoicism in him? My husband's expression was serious. I felt fear again at his belief in such an unbelievable method of education. It was natural for me to decide not to let my husband and Matt interact any further. "Stop it. Don't involve yourself with Matt anymore. Is that so? You take care of Matt. I'll take care of Alex then." I appealed to my husband in a voice that seemed to seek help. But he seemed to have come up with another bad idea. A month later, as I instructed, my husband stopped interfering with Matt's education and mostly avoided talking to him. His words about me taking care of Matt and him taking care of Alex probably meant that we should each handle the education of one child. Personally, I don't think it's a good method of education. But it's better than my husband continuing to yell at Matt. Besides, Alex can learn on his own and already makes decisions like an adult. So there shouldn't be any problems even if I can't intervene in his education. Though reluctantly, I decided this arrangement was acceptable for now to protect Matt. However, my husband's thoughts were far beyond what I had imagined. One holiday, I was out from morning till evening for an errand. When I returned home and entered the house, I was struck by a strange feeling of unease. Not sure if it was necessary, I cautiously moved along the hallway and first headed towards the living room. As I opened the door to the living room and slowly peered inside, the room's scenery had changed. The shelves were empty of small items, and the walls were bare where things had once hung. I panicked for a moment, thinking a burglar had entered, but the choice of stolen items and the undisturbed state of the room were odd. It seemed as if only the necessary items had been taken. With no one in the living room, I worriedly headed to the children's rooms. As I touched the doorknob of Matt's room, I sensed someone inside. Gathering my courage, I quietly opened the door. "Mom. I missed you." Despite it being evening and getting dark, Matt was sitting in his room in the dark, curled up in a ball. I didn't turn on the light, but instead rushed over to my son, who looked troubled. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Dad said I'm stupid and unnecessary. Dealing with an idiot is just a waste of time and money. So you guys can just do whatever without me." As my younger son spoke, I could feel my anger rising, almost to the point of exploding. However, seeing his sad expression made my anger decrease slightly, and sadness began to take over. "It's okay, you're a genius." "That's a lie. I can't study like my brother, nor am I the best at soccer. Just like Dad said, I'm stupid and can't do anything." "That's not true. Matt, you have talents that match your brother. Talents that are unique to you. Mom knows this well. The real fool is Dad. Are you hungry? Shall we have dinner?" I tried to distract my younger son from his sadness by changing the subject to dinner, though it might have also been to mask my own sadness and anger. It seems that instead of sharing the responsibility of our children's education, my husband is thinking of divorce, where each of us would take one child and raise them separately. He probably thinks that having the prodigious elder son with a younger son who can't meet his standards will negatively influence him. I agree with the idea of divorce. I don't want the younger son to be with my husband, and our arguments must have been audible to the children even from another room. For the children's sake, it would be better if we divorced. However, I would like to prevent my husband from taking the elder son. Thus, during the divorce discussions, there was a dispute about the elder son. We decided to ask for the elder son's opinion, expecting him to choose to live with me. But he said, "I want to live with Dad." "He wants to live with me too, right?" His words shocked me, and I was left speechless. Seeing me like this, my husband sneered audibly. Since the elder son wants this, there was nothing I could do. The divorce ended up just as my husband had hoped, with him taking the elder son and me taking the younger son. For my husband, who values results above all, this must have been a satisfying outcome. However, the results that followed did not go as he had hoped. 15 years later, not wanting to work at the same company as my husband, I used the divorce as an opportunity to work at a different company, doing a different job. Although we moved, I didn't want to transfer my younger son to another school, so we moved nearby. My ex-husband seemed to have the same idea and moved not far from our previous home. The child support for my younger son stopped around the time the elder son entered university. Although I had complaints, I was doing well in my new job and my income had increased. Thinking that dealing with my ex-husband now would only bring stress, I decided not to say anything. Today, as part of my new job, I am conducting a job interview. "Please, come in." The person who came in for the interview, hoping to change jobs, entered the conference room where the interview was held and, instead of greeting, expressed surprise first. "Wait, why are you here?" My ex-husband stepped back in surprise, bumping into the still open door. It's no wonder he was shocked since only my younger son and I were sitting there as interviewers. "Please, have a seat." With a look of disbelief, as if questioning whether this was a dream, He slowly sat down without saying anything, since he had not maintained any business etiquette from the moment he entered. If this were a real interview, he would already have failed. Of course, I had no intention of passing him. I have that authority. Why are you here? And Matt too. Are you guys part of the HR here? No, I saw someone from HR during the first interview. What are you doing in this company? You didn't research this company properly before coming to the interview. Did you? Then, I can't hire you. I did research for the company. Isn't this a web consulting firm? That was established 15 years ago with an annual revenue of $8 million? I applied thinking I could utilize my web marketing knowledge. Did you look at the company's homepage? The part with the president's name? The president's name? You really didn't research properly. You can use your phone right now to check it. My ex-husband, looking puzzled, took out his smartphone from his bag, turned it on, and started looking up the company's homepage. My younger son and I, anticipating his reaction, grinned at each other while waiting. The president's name is under corporate information, right? The name is A? What? Pfft. I burst out laughing at my ex-husband's reaction when he saw my name under the president's section. Why is your name listed under the president's section? That's because I'm the president of this company. What? 15 years ago, after the divorce, I quit my job and used my experience to start a web consulting firm. My new job was being the president of a web consulting company. While it was challenging at first, as my husband said, the company grew to a scale of $8 million in annual revenue over 15 years. Unaware that I was the president, my ex-husband, like me, had moved not far from our previous home. Therefore, our living and commuting areas were quite similar. It was not strange for him to find and apply to my fast-growing company. If he was looking for a company where he could use his web marketing experience within that range. What was strange was that he missed the name of the company president during his job application. I was looking through the application documents of the candidates who passed the first interview, saw your resume, and thought it would be interesting to have you come today. Oh, of course, not checking the president's name already disqualifies you. Not focusing on results and just doing well is enough. And you, who indulged Matt with such an education, are the president. My ex-husband, realizing that someone with a different philosophy like me had succeeded in business, desperately tried to deny it, thinking that his own beliefs were not wrong. Sweat began to form on his forehead, and his eyes darted around. As his gaze fell on Matt, he spoke. Being the president must mean your abilities were high, right? I'll admit you're competent. But you becoming president must mean Matt got into the company just because of your authority, right? He's just hanging on to your results, and ultimately, it means Matt can't do anything on his own, right? That's just you indulging your kids, isn't it? How can Matt survive on his own if that's the case? I didn't get Matt into the company using my presidential powers. He went through interviews and exams just like any other job seeker, without any special treatment. That's just your word, anyone could say that. Even if he was treated specially to get in. Matt has already become a top-notch salesman, bringing in lots of business within his first year. Isn't that the result you value? He's in sales at a web consulting firm, right? That means he can't be stupid if he's doing web consulting work, right? That's not true. Being in sales means he has to be able to explain web consulting well enough to convince clients. So, he needs to always keep up with the latest knowledge and skills. In addition to sales skills, I think it's a role that's even tougher than being on site. I plan to have him become a sales engineer who will accompany the sales team in the future. Matt, who used to only play soccer, is becoming an engineer. And he's producing results within his first year? You only look at results, so you didn't notice that Matt is a genius at effort. During his elementary school years, Matt would stay and practice soccer later, and more earnestly than anyone else. He may not have become the best in soccer, but he could persist and continue to try hard in any situation, which is an important skill in society. Before the divorce, I couldn't forgive how my ex-husband tried to force Matt to give up his effortful talent through meaningless shouting. That's why I yelled at my ex-husband. After the divorce, Matt wanted to help with my company. So he went to a university specializing in information systems. Although studying was a challenge for him, he leveraged his talent for effort, spending more than twice as long as others to achieve top grades in university. Matt's existence proved that my approach to education was not mistaken. It seemed that my ex-husband, focusing solely on results, finally grasped the importance of the process, the effort, which left him speechless. Seeing my ex-husband unable to respond, I felt satisfied. But it appeared Matt wanted to press him further. Dad, the reason for applying on your resume says you want to explore a new field. But that's not true, is it? What? No, that's not a lie. I want to leverage my web marketing knowledge to learn and acquire skills in web consulting next. Isn't it true that you relied on your elder son's income and, instead of joining a major company, you ended up in some mediocre company with an okay salary, and now you're job hunting? Did you hear that from Alex? You asked knowing that. What a cunning person you've become. Well, you're half right. Should we invite him in now? Matt called out loudly toward the entrance, summoning someone from beyond the door. At the sound of the door opening, my ex-husband, still seated, turned towards the door. Alex, are you working here too? Yeah, I am. I'm learning the ropes of web consulting here now. Remember how you yelled at me to get a better job when I graduated from university? The company you were referring to was this one. I've been in touch with Mom and learned about the company. I was surprised when I saw Alex's resume right before his final interview. He applied without telling me. At that time, you must have known about this company's name from your brother. But you seem to have completely forgotten it over these 3 years. Well, it's no wonder since you, Dad, who wanted to be supported by a son working in a good position, probably weren't interested in the company details and forgot. I never thought about it like that. Why would you say such a thing? Right after you and Mom divorced, you kept treating me like I was still a little boy, insisting I should get a job at a big company in the future or that I should take care of you since you raised me. Even a grade schooler could see through such dark intentions. I've disliked you since I was a kid. Then why did you choose to come with me during the divorce? When I said I wanted to go with Mom, you thought it would make me a worse person. So, I decided to live with you, hoping maybe you would change to be more like Mom. But that was impossible. You quit your job when Alex was in university, right? You did it because you thought soon Alex would support you. And you wouldn't need to work at such a hard job in IT anymore. That's why you became a part-timer relying on Alex's future earnings, isn't it? While working part-time, living off savings and severance pay. You planned to be supported by your son once he got a job. That plan failed when he got a job at some unknown company. And that's why you confronted him about his job choice. When you became a part-timer, I gave up hoping you'd change your mindset. That's why I left home as soon as I got a job. If I had the same perseverance as Matt, maybe I could have continued trying to change your mind. No way, even I would give up if someone relied on me to become a part-timer, Dad. Being called a prodigy, the elder son, and Matt, a genius of effort. In a world where many companies struggle with succession, I am fortunate. Watching my two sons talking and laughing, I imagine a not-so-distant future. While I envision a bright future, my ex-husband imagines a bleak one. His expression somber. He abandoned me and Matt to be supported by the prodigious elder son, but now finds himself being abandoned by all of us. Please hire me at this company. I've been working part-time for the past 7 years, and I'm out of money. No one else will hire me. Well, that's to be expected. In this industry, new technologies and information emerge all the time. With a 7-year gap, it's hard to find work. That's why I tried to get re-employed during the 4-year gap when Alex graduated. But that didn't work out either. I've just been dragging my feet since then. I'm not interested in what you've done up to now. Results are what matter, right? Right now, you're not in demand in the IT industry. That's the result. Such. Hey, Alex. You owe me for raising you. Convince her. It seems my ex-husband has learned nothing from this ordeal. After 15 years, I finally snapped at his words. Enough. You don't raise children to have them take care of you or to boast about them to others. What debt of upbringing? Rather, we should feel grateful that our children came into our lives. My loud voice brought other employees into the conference room. Escort this man out, please. My ex-husband was led out by the arriving employees, his eyes filled with regret. However, with the results of raising Matt, who never gives up, and growing the company significantly, my ex-husband has no ground to stand on against me. I worried that my yelling might have scared the children. So I cautiously looked at their faces. Their expressions seemed to commend me, saying well done. Abandoned by me, Alex and Matt, my ex-husband began searching for jobs outside the IT industry. Despite his long career, abandoning over 20 years of experience takes courage, which he lacked. Clinging to the IT sector. This resulted in him nearly penniless. At 55, penniless, my ex-husband took a job at a supermarket, inexperienced. He is willing to work hard, but learning new things is difficult at his age. And he lacks the physical stamina. Thus, he is reprimanded by younger supervisors and even university student part-timers at his workplace. Mentally and physically challenging. Changing jobs wouldn't improve his situation much. I believe he should keep the job he has, no matter how tough it is. Our company continues to do well without change. However, reaching a revenue of $10 million is considered a barrier. Currently, we are at $8 million. Our next goal is to break through that barrier. While it's challenging, with 2 talented children, I believe we can achieve it. My sister grinned and told me as I agreed to pay $30,000 for her wedding expenses, acting all high and mighty for just $30,000. "Don't come to the wedding, I don't want you there. With your looks, you'll never get married, huh? It's a waste to save money. I'll spend it for you," she said, looking down on me. I realized there was no point in responding to my sister, who kept insulting me. So, I simply said, "All right, good luck," and left. My sister, who repeatedly made offensive remarks, ended up panicking afterward. Before I get into how things turned out, let me start from the beginning with my sister and me. I'm Hannah, a 30-year-old wedding planner. I've been dedicated to my career. Though still single, I enjoy my job that involves being part of people's milestones of marriage. At work, I've even started to lead the team. It's a responsible job and organizing many people is tough, but it's fulfilling. I've seen many brides through work and hope to get married someday. However, things aren't quite there yet with my current boyfriend. I've been dating Paul for about a year. He's a kind person, but lately, he seems indifferent. He often declines when I ask him out for meals or dates. I was suspicious, and then I got a shocking confession from my sister Candace. "I'm dating Paul. You should break up with him." When I heard this, I thought, not again. It wasn't the first time Candace had gone after someone I was dating. Candace is 5 years younger than me. Since I was a kid, I have been often compared to her because we were complete opposites. I had a plain appearance and was shy, struggling with conversations. In contrast, Candace was cute, charming, and could make friends with anyone. Everyone, including our parents and relatives, adored her. Meanwhile, Candace always looked down on me, and I faced constant harassment behind the scenes. The only area where I could outdo Candace was academics. Yet, no matter how well I did on tests, our parents never praised me. Although I excelled in studies, they preferred Candace, who was charming and good at winning their affection. They never realized Candace's manipulative nature. Being good at studies isn't everything. You lack femininity, my parents would often say. The last straw was my father's comment. Candace is kind-hearted. It doesn't matter if she isn't good at studies. But in my eyes, Candace's personality was far from kind. Since childhood, Candace always wanted my things, like my favorite toys, books, clothes, accessories, everything. I complained to our parents. I hate it because Candace takes all my stuff. But their typical response was, "Just give it to her. Aren't you the older sister? Don't you think she's cute?" At those times, our parents made me feel like I had done something wrong. As a child, I couldn't bring myself to say, "I don't think Candace is cute at all." Honestly, I disliked how she took my things and was always excused for it. Candace hated when I received more attention than her. Even if I was talking with our parents or relatives, she would immediately start with, "Listen. I am." And everyone would be drawn into her engaging stories, leaving me out. Besides, Candace would take away every guy I liked. In middle school, as soon as she knew I liked someone, she would date him. The first guy I dated in high school was also taken by her. Every time she took a guy from me, she would say with a smile, "Sorry. He likes me better." That smile of hers was unbearable. I started dating my current boyfriend, Paul, a year ago when I was 29. Paul is the same age as me, and I thought it might be time to start thinking about marriage. That's when Candace told me to break up with him. Remembering all the times she had taken someone away from me, it wasn't surprising, but I confronted Paul. After all, we had been together for a year. I thought there was no way he would choose Candace over me. Sorry. I love Candace. She says she can't do without me. I have to protect her. I felt dizzy hearing that. I thought I was the one who couldn't do without Paul. Moreover, to hear that he had been betraying me for over 6 months was a shock. Instead of apologizing, Paul said he wanted to be with Candace. That was too much, and I complained to our parents. Candace has taken my boyfriend Paul, even though we both thought it might be time to get married. However, our parents sighed and tried to soothe me. It wasn't meant to be this time. We heard from Candace. She's going to marry Paul. You should congratulate her. If Paul loves Candace, there's nothing you can do. Stop complaining. Aren't you ashamed to be jealous of your sister? Despite my boyfriend being taken away, my parents kept defending Candace. That's when I realized my family was not on my side. I was hurt, but I broke up with Paul. Maybe it was lucky to split before marriage talks got serious, I told myself. Soon after, I heard that Candace and Paul got engaged. Then, Candace shocked me with her words. Since you're single and only work, you should pay for the wedding. You must have saved up, right? True, saving money is my hobby, and I might have saved more than others my age. But that money wasn't meant for Candace's wedding expenses. I had no intention of celebrating, but I planned to give them a gift at least. Yet, why should I bear the wedding costs? Not only Candace, but our parents said the same. Pay for the wedding, you know she doesn't have the money and we're barely managing our retirement funds. Just lend it to her. She said she'll pay you back later, right? Can't you even lend money to your family? I got tired of hearing this day in, day out. Reluctantly, I agreed to pay, ensuring Candace intended to repay me. Of course. I'll pay back everything. However, after I agreed to pay, I realized something. The invitation never came. Maybe she would hand-deliver it? I waited, but Candace never brought it. Candace, where's the invitation? She glanced at me and smirked. I sent them out to everyone. I haven't received it. That's because I didn't send one to you. What do you mean? You're not inviting your own sister? Even though I'm paying for the wedding, how can you not invite me? I was furious. It was as if she only needed my money and nothing else. Acting all high and mighty for just $30,000. Don't come to the wedding. Hannah, you're too plain. It'd be embarrassing if everyone saw you. Even Mom and Dad said, let Candace do what she wants. Hannah doesn't matter. It wasn't just Candace, but our parents agreed. Instead of anger, I felt sadness. They always sided with Candace. Seeing how shocked I was, Candace giggled. With your looks, you'll never get married, right? It's a waste to save money. I'll spend it for you. Realizing arguing was pointless, I decided I was better off not attending such a sister's wedding. All right, good luck, was all I said as I walked away. Candace called out. Sorry you won't see the pretty bride. But I ignored her. The day before the wedding, Candace called. I ignored it, but she kept calling persistently. I sighed and answered. Hello? What's up? Candace was frantic. What do you mean by that? About what? The wedding expenses. I got billed an insane amount. I laughed. Candace was finally realizing the situation. An insane amount? Oh, right, no more discounts. Tough, isn't it? Discounts? What do you mean? Candace was getting married at the venue where I worked as a wedding planner. I had told her if I was paying, it would be there. I had many connections, like florists, makeup artists, and MCs who could offer services at a discounted rate because of me. Candace agreed, wanting any beautiful venue as long as she could be the center of attention. Since I was paying, she likely never checked how much the discounts were worth. The wedding expenses were discounted because of my employee benefit. But since I'm apparently not invited, I canceled the discount and also stopped the payment. That's impossible. Even without the gift money, there's a bill for over $30,000. Candace had skimped on the guests' meal costs but had lavishly spent on her dress, flowers, and production costs. Now that the discount is gone, it must be tough to make the payments. Good luck with that, I said as I hung up the phone. Before I did, I could hear Candace screaming on the other end, but I ignored her. After our call, Candace apparently tried to negotiate a lower price with the venue staff, but they were my colleagues and already informed of the situation. They stood by me and ensured that Candace was billed the full amount. Candace and Paul ended up in debt to pay for their wedding. Later on, it wasn't just the wedding expenses, but Paul's debts came to light too. He had always loved gambling. I kept an eye on him not to get too deep into gambling while we were together, so he spent it within reason. However, it seems Candace hadn't noticed Paul's gambling addiction. She was only interested in taking what was mine, not truly looking into Paul's character. While the couple was saddled with gambling debts, my parents came to me for help. Please, lend Candace some money. Are you planning to abandon her? How heartless can you be? Despite their outbursts, I ignored them completely and turned them away without a word. Candace and Paul, burdened with debt repayment, worked like slaves. Candace, with only part-time job experience, couldn't find a full-time position and was stuck with low-wage work. Paul, having quit gambling, was shunned at his company after they found out he switched from sister to sister and incurred debts because of it. Labeled the lowest of scum. He was isolated but continued to work due to the debts. I decided to distance myself from both my parents and Candace. Despite numerous calls from Candace begging for money, I didn't respond. I don't have money to lend you. Do not contact me ever again. The same went for my parents. I told them I had no intention of being involved with them or looking after them in their old age. Since they had planned to rely on me, they were incredibly anxious, knowing I didn't care to maintain a relationship after they'd taken me for granted. I have no intention of taking care of you after your retirement or providing financial support. Maybe your beloved Candace can take care of you. My parents were speechless at my words, but to me, they were already irrelevant. I wondered why I hadn't cut off contact sooner as I began to enjoy my freedom. Free from a sister who belittled me and parents who imposed everything on me, I felt more positive and even attended my first matchmaking party. Fortunately, I met someone great there, and we started dating. Both over 30, we were serious about marriage. My boyfriend, a banker with a stable income who doesn't gamble, turned out to be not only kind but also reliable. In fact, when Candace and Paul, along with my parents, frequently came to my house demanding money, it was my boyfriend who drove them away after learning of my situation. Please start detaching from Hannah. If you keep this up, we'll consult the police. His presence was truly reassuring. Not just kind, but dependable. Later, I learned that Candace had been persistently contacting him and even ambushed him after work, clearly trying to take him from me. Remembering all the times she'd taken someone I loved, I felt anxious. However, my boyfriend had no interest in Candace and he even found her repulsive. Unmoved by her persistent attempts, he proposed to me. I want to get you away from your crazy family as soon as possible. Let's marry and move quickly. I'm not beautiful and don't have much to offer, is that really okay? I asked insecurely. You've been brainwashed by your family. You are beautiful and have so many great qualities. I'll show you that from now on. Let's be free together. He assured me, and I nodded. Things turned around quickly. I got married and moved to a high-security apartment. My parents and sister no longer visit. A few months into the marriage, I found out I was pregnant, filling our lives with joy. Relatives say Candace and Paul are still struggling to pay off their debts, and my parents, now without their planned support from me, are reflecting on their actions. Even so, I've decided never to return to them. It may be tough for them, but their hardship is the result of their own actions. From now on, I plan to live happily with my supportive husband and our upcoming child. While the two chatted amiably, I quietly observed them. Then, turning to face me, my mother scowled. "Oh, you're still here? I'm handing over the company to adorable Mia. I've always hated you, you know. Really. Such an ugly one you are. I haven't forgotten how you shamelessly followed your father. You're fired. Pack your stuff and get out now. I am Judy Baker. Currently, I enjoy living alone. I used to live at home until a certain event made me leave. It sounds nice to say it was a mutual decision, but in reality, I was kicked out. Reflecting on my life of over 30 years, I've overcome various challenges. Children expect love from their mother, regardless. I kept believing that if I continued to try hard, one day she would praise me. However, now I've come to terms that I'll never receive such things from her. My parents divorced when I was in middle school. The cause was my mother's infidelity. She was pregnant with a child not fathered by my dad. Probably their feelings had already cooled off. Dad didn't ask for alimony, perhaps it was his final act of mercy. Once the affair came to light and the other man disappeared, my mother had to raise my sister alone. Dad probably thought the unborn child shouldn't be blamed. After the divorce, I lived with him. 6 months after the divorce, Dad fell ill and passed away. Then, I had to live with my mother again, which meant a real trial. She never forgave me for choosing Dad. Honestly, I never wanted to return to her after her betrayal. However, as a 13-year-old, I had no other choice but to be with her. She ran a cosmetics company but was too busy to care for my sister, so I had to do it. She'd leave for work as soon as I got home and wouldn't return until late. Whenever we met, she'd repeat, "You're alive because of me. Take care of your sister." Living in such an environment, I felt compelled to earn her approval, and eventually, I became like a robot for her. Despite being a robot, I understood her favoritism towards my sister. Mia has such a cute face. Maybe she'll be the face of my company someday. On the other hand, Judy, you have such a plain face. And you're well built. I look like my mother. People say we're spitting images. My sister undoubtedly resembles the man my mother had an affair with. Even as a baby, she had distinct double eyelids and well-formed features. My mother adores her face, even though the man ran away. While my mother doted on my sister, she was very strict with me. If it's not a public school, I won't pay any money. Your grades must be all A. In my 3rd year of middle school, she insisted on this. Though vain, she invested in tutoring, which was a blessing in disguise. Regardless of the reason, it allowed me to focus on my studies in the tutoring center. I met her expectations and got into the high school she wanted. The same went for university. Only state universities. Private ones are a waste of money. I had guessed what she would say since she insisted on public during my high school entrance exams. So, from the first year of high school, I aimed for a state university and succeeded in one attempt. But then, complaints came after I got in. We live in New York, but the university I got into was in Los Angeles. She didn't like that. Who's going to take care of your sister? She raged. Eventually, her wrath forced me to give up Los Angeles, and I took a gap year, really an intense year. Keeping up academically while caring for my sister was a real struggle. A year later, I entered a university in New York and commuted from home. By then, my path was already set. After graduating, I was supposed to join her company. At the time, I felt no dissatisfaction. I was happy to be recognized by her. I thought she finally needed me, not just my sister. Then, to be even more useful to her, I brought along 2 talented classmates when I joined her company. We were researchers. Initially, the job was fun thanks to friendly colleagues, but her demands knew no bounds, and the challenges kept piling up. I regret involving my friends in such a draining emotional endeavor. And these friends were the ones who helped me see the light, during a summer vacation in our 5th year. Working and vacationing together, how much more together can we get? We were enjoying a brief vacation at a resort. Well, that just shows how well we get along. Then one of my friends received a call. She laughed openly while chatting. Sorry, it was my mom. You get along well, huh? You think so? It's normal, huh? She asked me to buy some famous local lotion. Oh. Isn't that what we saw in town today? Right. But it was sold out, wasn't it? Yeah. But maybe the store has more stock if we ask. No need to go that far. It's okay, I'll just tell Mom it was sold out. What? No. You were asked to get it, right? Yes. Then we absolutely have to find it. My friend stared at me intently as I insisted. You know, Judy, a mother is family. Yes, that's true. She's not a customer. That's right. If something she asked for isn't available, just saying it wasn't there is enough because she's family. I found myself at a loss for words. Not because I agreed with my friend, but because I was worried that her mother would be furious if she couldn't get the lotion. After the trip, she asked me to come over to her house, and what I saw there was a family dynamic I had never witnessed before. Mom, sorry, the lotion you wanted was sold out. Oh, is that so? It must be really popular then. You really have an eye for good things, Mom. Here we go, the Foresight Declaration. Here, this is a gift for you. Oh. Sweets? Thank you, let's eat some right away. I'll make some coffee. Thanks. Please do. As my friend went to the kitchen, her mother smiled warmly at me. How is she doing at work? She's very talented and doing well in a crucial role. Oh, that's good. She really does work hard when it matters. Talking about her friend seemed to make her very happy. About the lotion. I'm sorry we couldn't get it. Nonsense. That's okay. There will be other chances. We'll try again when it's less popular. If it had been my mother, she would have screamed until I got it. If it had been my mother, she would never let it go. To think there are such generous mothers out there. My mother is a demon. After that, my friends invited me over to their homes several times, and I was finally able to fully awaken from my mother's brainwashing. They never spoke ill of my mother, but they must have had their reasons. They were desperate to rescue me. I'm grateful to have such good friends. Time passed, and when my sister graduated from university, it was time for me to part ways with my mother. That day, I was called into the CEO's office, where my sister also appeared. You can quit the company now. As soon as I entered the CEO's office, my mother blurted out. I didn't know how to react. What are you standing there dumbfounded for? I said you could quit. What? Sister is fired. Yes, that's right. Because she's no longer needed. Why? Why? Because you have graduated from university, huh? Mia, you are talented, with a cute face. You are perfect for the presidency. Yay. I'll do it, oh, but there's a condition. Say anything you want. What will happen to you, Mom, if I become president? I'm thinking of becoming the chairman. I'll be there to advise you. Then I won't do it. I don't want to be dictated. If you give all the authority to Mia, then I'll consider it. Mia, you really do take after me. My mother seemed very pleased. All right, I'll leave everything to reliable Mia. But if you ever have any trouble, I'll be there to support you. Just let me know. Okay. While Mia and my mother chatted amicably, I quietly observed them. Then, turning to face me, my mother scowled. Oh, you're still here? I'm handing over the company to adorable Mia. I've always hated you, you know. Really? Such an ugly one you are. I haven't forgotten how you shamelessly followed your father. You're now fired. Pack your stuff and get out now. Although I'm free from her brainwashing, facing such harsh words is still painful. Mom. Call me Ms. Baker, not Mom. Mom. Really, you're such an inflexible child. I could never forgive you for betraying Dad, but I'm grateful for the upbringing. Yet, I was just a convenient tool for you. Don't talk with that face. I'm sick of your face. Such an ugly child. I clenched my lips tightly. I refuse to lose. I won't shed a tear. You're right. Mom, you hated this face so much, so you've changed your own face. Are you satisfied with that face? You are completely different now, and it's unrecognizable. No matter how much you change your face, Mom, it's still ugly. That's not true. Nowadays, as long as you have the money, you can change your face as much as you want. But still, it's the same. The face you show me has never changed from a long time ago. A hideous, demon-like face. You're so annoying. Just get out already. You're no longer needed. Really terrible, both your face and your personality. Mom, are you done yet? I'm getting bored of this. Oh, right, sorry. There's a lot I need to teach you, Mia. Hurry up already. All right, here. Judy, you just get out. I got it. Thank you for everything until now. I had worked diligently at my mother's company, but without any appreciation, I was abruptly fired. And at the same time as my dismissal, I was thrown out of the house, leading to my current situation. 3 months since the firing, I feel at peace living without my mother. However, there are still things I need to do. 3 months have passed, and I'm ready. This will finally free me from my mother. That day, I went to the company from which I was fired. Judy, sorry. It took quite some time. Entering the CEO's office, my sister Mia wore a wry smile. Hee, I've had a nice 3-month break, so it's all fine. Really? Then, I'm counting on you this afternoon as we have discussed. During the afternoon's emergency meeting, it was announced that I would be listed as a director. However, there was only one person surprised by this, the person who had been my mother's secretary. She now works under my sister, the new president. She rushed out of the meeting room in a panic when the announcement was made. So, everyone. As I mentioned before, I'm grateful that my talented sister has come back, so please continue to support us. Talented, really, even though this is a company. What a sweet gesture by such a cute sister. Mia had been planning this for a long time to save me. Yes, to take the company from our mother and run it together as sisters. And she noticed how the employees were being pushed around by our mother's arrogance. It's unbelievable that a daughter who just graduated became the new president and the other daughter was unjustly fired after having been working in research. Understanding this, Mia personally spoke to each employee and asked for their cooperation, promising to bring me back. Those who helped included my friends from research. The employees who understood warmly welcomed my new role as a director. Sandra stormed out, didn't she? She's probably calling that woman right now. Hilarious. Returning to the CEO's office, Mia seemed thoroughly pleased with herself. I hope Sandra quits the company too. Honestly, she's like her clone. I can't stand her. Thanks, Mia. Good job. Likewise, looking forward to working together. Yeah, thank you, as always. Huh? Even when I was being fired, you subtly stepped in between that woman and me. You did the same at home too. Thank you, Mia. Huh? I don't remember that. When we were immersed in her kindness, suddenly, the door to the CEO's office burst open. Hey. Mia. What's the meaning of this? Sandra is quite a capable secretary, always quick to make contact. What's wrong? Why? Why is this person a director? That's because she's talented and respected, obviously. Look, I'm just a newbie. Running a company alone is impossible. That's why I was supposed to become the chairman. No, we don't need that. Mia. I worked so hard for you, and I really tried my best for you. Are you going to repay my kindness with betrayal? I hate you. I really hate you. My sister, who had been smiling, suddenly showed her anger. The one who really looked after me was Judy. You don't know, huh? I've been bullied all along. They said I was the child born from an affair without a father. When I was being bullied, Judy was the one who shielded me. Even though I changed her life, she always stayed by my side. She took care of me as her cute sister. What did you ever do for such a kind Judy? Have you ever apologized even once for your mistakes? Is a pretty face all that matters? Aren't you foolish? You should have cherished your kind-hearted daughter who stayed by your side despite the horrible things you did to her. You're not needed in our lives. Get out of here right now. Mia's words greatly stirred my emotions. I might not be able to hold back tears. Our mother stood dumbfounded in front of us, her gaze fixed on me. Did you instigate this? That's right, isn't it? She is beyond saving. I didn't do anything like that. You're taking everything from me, that man. Mia, the company, everything. Such a hateful child. You've always been a paragon of justice, just like that man. He wouldn't forgive even one mistake I made, how narrow-minded. That's why he died young. Absolutely. It must be. You're mistaken if you think you can get by on justice alone in this world. I don't think so. I believe that justice will prevail. Mom. I hate you too. We're really family, we have the same way of thinking. I held back my tears as I uttered these final words. Sandra supported the dazed mother as they left the CEO's office. That was the last time I saw them. Despite my mother's claim that justice alone doesn't work, 3 years later, the company is still performing well. Unexpectedly, since the new management took over, the employee turnover rate has significantly dropped. This is indeed a cause for celebration. Since then, Mia and I have had no contact with our mother. We live together and manage the company. Although Mia is 13 years younger, she listens attentively to the staff and works diligently every day. Our lives are still long ahead of us. Together with my sister, I want to continue protecting our company. You're not related by blood, so I'm cutting ties. The property is all mine. On a cold winter day, my husband suddenly passed away. During his funeral, I was shaken by the sudden words of my stepson. I thought I had raised him dearly. Even though our relationship wasn't the best, I believed there was some affection reaching him. His words at the funeral made me give up on everything. So, I understand, that's truly how you feel. I vowed not to get involved with my stepson anymore. However, the one who broke that promise and contacted me was him. The next day, my son called dozens of times, but I ignored all of them. See, he did contact me. Yes, I knew this would happen because I knew the truth. Wake up. Come on. How many times do I have to turn off the alarm? The snooze function is useless. Sorry. I'm just not good in the mornings. Hurry and get ready. Breakfast is ready. Yes, I'm still tired. My day begins with handling my morning weak husband. It's a hectic daily life, but it's happy. Phew, it'd be nice if you woke up easier. I need coffee to wake up, and I have to work hard today. There's no time. But eat without rushing. I know. Married for 15 years, this interaction is normal. The comfort of these casual exchanges motivates me to keep going today. Is he still sleeping? I called out to him, but no response. He refers to my son, who is my husband's child from a previous relationship. At 45, living with my 50-year-old self-employed husband and 23-year-old stepson. I support my busy husband by keeping the house as a homemaker. Really? That's frustrating. What should we do? There's a certain tension only during this conversation. I was desperate to ease the atmosphere. Look at the clock. It's this late already. I'm off. You seem busier lately, but please don't overdo it. My husband is very kind, but there are things he keeps to himself or struggles to express, so I try to notice even the slightest changes. Don't worry, I won't overdo it. I don't have time to break down. See you. Though it felt somewhat forced. I didn't want to nag too much and sent him off with a smile. Take care. I was comforted by my kind and cheerful husband from the morning. Now, I must get on with the chores. As I was gearing up, my stepson came stumbling in, still half asleep. I closed my eyes to his unkempt look and greeted him with a smile. Good morning. Breakfast? Should we air out the blankets since it's nice weather? Ah. Sigh. As I tried to start a conversation, he intentionally let out a big sigh. It sounded more like he was pressing me not to talk to him. After 15 years, the interaction was still awkward, or rather, it didn't feel like an interaction at all. I wondered if I was being too reserved. Make sure to hydrate. You lose a lot of water while you sleep. I threw out almost nagging words, hoping for some response, but it didn't go well. I tried to speak without letting on that I was choosing my words. I just wanted to talk, but it never worked out. Ignoring was a daily occurrence. And he would glare at me as I kept asking questions. At least he wasn't shouting or rampaging, I told myself. Trying to console myself that it could be worse, but I eventually lost the words to speak. He rummaged through the fridge, grabbed a drink and a sweet bun, and went back to his room. In the end, we didn't exchange a word. Today was no good either. The distance between me and my stepson kept growing over the years. Considering his age and all, I was sorting through various emotions, while suddenly reminiscing about the past. When we got married, my stepson was 7. And I was very confused about how to interact with him. Becoming the parent of a 7-year-old all of a sudden was, in a sense, terrifying. I think my stepson felt the same. Becoming a family with a woman he hardly knew. We had met several times before the marriage, but he never got used to me. And we relied on my husband's suggestion that it would be okay to gradually get used to each other after the marriage. It must have been a huge burden for a child. I struggled not to act too parental, hoping to break the ice. Sometimes, I think this unnaturalness created a gap. Hey, why don't you talk a bit? We can't have fun conversations if you don't say anything. It's okay not to call me Mom. Let's get along. Well, it's understandable. It's a shock to suddenly have more family. Let's get along slowly, the three of us. Right? My husband said this, looking apologetic toward me. It was tough not having the stepson warm up to me. But I knew worrying wouldn't help. So I did my best to close the gap and get him used to me, supported by my husband. Shall we play together? What do you like? I want Dad. Only Dad. I'd like to play together, but Dad is busy with work, right? No. Go away. Ball. So, let's play soccer. You're not capable anyway. Get out of here. I didn't know what to do, and I told myself not to act like a mother, while I was overwhelmed with the unfamiliar task of parenting. There were times when I thought it was growth just to have him talk back, a carefree idea. As time passed, I hoped things would work out as he grew. But life doesn't always go smoothly. I was naive. As he became a middle and high school student, not quite a delinquent. But he hung around every day without studying much. And my husband and I were at our wits' end. Even my kind husband raised his voice sometimes. Where have you been until this time? Shut up. You're not really worried. What I do is none of your business. Not our business. How can you say that? Why can't you at least tell us where you are? But there are social commitments for young people, right? If we keep allowing that, there's no end to it. Making us worry without any contact and then talking back to us. Clicking your tongue. I'm getting frustrated. Well, my bad for being such a son. Bang. I can't forget the sound of the door slamming that time. Nor can I forget how pitiful I felt for only being able to respond in such a templated manner. Should I have scolded him properly? Even if I thought so, I couldn't easily change my way of thinking. Despite various troubles, my feelings of caring for my stepson remained unchanged. And I, ever hopeful, waited with a birthday cake I made for him. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I somewhat knew it would turn out this way. But if there was even a slight hope, maybe. I clung to that faint hope and continued to wait. It's already this late, maybe he got involved in something dangerous. It's always like this. I'm truly sorry. You're making such an effort. I just got too excited, don't worry about it. What I'm really worried about is whether he's safe. Despite thinking it might be annoying, I was too worried and made a call. Ring, ring, ring. Of course, he's not answering the phone. I called several times, but eventually, it went to voicemail. He's old enough to prefer spending time with friends over celebrating with family. Which is natural. I should have realized it sooner. Let's eat the cake tomorrow. Ah. My husband sighed deeply and said nothing more. In the end, my stepson didn't come home and was out all night. Since then, the gap has not been filled, in fact, it has only widened. There were many troubles. Just thinking about it drains me. Despite being disliked, I lived my life trying to be as close to my stepson as possible, hoping we could gradually get along. I cherished raising him in my own way. On another cold winter day, my husband suddenly died. That. The cause was a myocardial infarction. Likely compounded by his usual overwork and stress, I was told by the doctor. Although I was confused, I understood that his work situation was severe. And there were parts one could accept. If only I had been more supportive. I regretted not being able to support him more. Without time to grieve, I arranged my husband's funeral. Keeping busy helped distract me a bit. The funeral proceeded without any issues. And I barely kept myself together as the chief mourner. I had to be strong. I couldn't just keep grieving, for the sake of my stepson left behind. I kept telling myself that. Everybody, I have a few words to say. My husband was a very kind and cheerful man. Despite his life still having so much potential. He unfortunately fell ill suddenly and closed the curtain on his life. I never thought I'd have to undertake such a duty so soon. I continued my speech with these thoughts in my heart. A good husband and father, he cherished his family despite being busy. And he spent time with us. I want to live on, supporting each other with my son, holding on to the happiness my husband gave us. Thank you all for coming today, despite your busy schedules. As I finished my speech as the chief mourner, suddenly, my stepson started to speak. I couldn't comprehend what was happening, as it was so sudden. I'm cutting ties with her. This person is no longer a parent or anything to me. A stranger. Pointing at me, my stepson declared that. Wait. What are you saying? Shut up. Be quiet. I was at a loss for words at my stepson's shocking announcement. To sever ties suddenly, and at such an occasion. I tried to stay calm. But it was impossible to remain composed. And I felt like I might collapse from the psychological strain. Regardless of my state, my stepson continued speaking indifferently. Dad never cared about her. He didn't acknowledge her as his wife. Only saw her as a mere housekeeper. She's not family. The surrounding crowd couldn't hide their murmurs. I was shaken by the words that my husband didn't care for me. But that quickly turned into anger. I retorted sharply. That's not true. Dad cared for and cherished me properly. What were you looking at? Both you and I were cherished by him. Dad wasn't the person you describe. Hearing this, my stepson half mocked me with a smile. And pulled a paper from his breast pocket. Can you still say such platitudes after seeing this? I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the paper. This is your marriage certificate with Dad. Dad never submitted this. This is the definitive proof that he didn't care about you. You're the one who doesn't know anything about Dad, aren't you? No way. If you doubt it, check it yourself. Saying that, he threw the paper at me. I hesitantly picked it up and verified it. It was indeed the marriage certificate my husband and I had filled out. Just as my stepson said. I couldn't stop shivering. Not from anger, but from a surge of sadness. We weren't married. Just as my stepson said, I had always been a stranger to my husband. My emotions were a mess, and I couldn't think straight. That's why I'm cutting ties with you. The property is all mine. Well, you're not family or anything, are you? You can't say anything back, can you? As I stood pale and trembling, my stepson cornered me as if seizing the moment. I've never liked you. I tolerated you because I thought you were just a housekeeper necessary for my father's work. But I'm done with this charade. I feel relieved. Now get out of my sight. I thought I had raised him well. Even if not as a mother. I believed he had accepted me as part of the family. Learning what was truly in his heart, I felt despair. Was I really never connected to my husband or stepson? My heart fell so much during the funeral that I forgot we were at one. I gave up on everything in despair. Was love this fragile? Or was our family nothing more than a pretense? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything else. I understand. I don't want anything, and I will no longer have anything to do with you. I vowed never to interact with my stepson again. If freeing myself from this shredded mess of feelings meant letting everything else go, so be it. Thank you for your efforts, housekeeper. Days after the shocking funeral, I was tidying up the house, preparing to leave it behind. I wanted to free myself from this situation as soon as possible. Was my entire married life a lie? I muttered alone in the now empty and somewhat lonely room. That's when it happened. I found a letter in my husband's study. A letter, for me? Wanting to erase everything, I hesitated for a moment about whether to read it. But fearing regret, I started to read the letter, which contained all my husband's feelings. So that was it. With surprise, the letter dissolved all the resentments in my heart. And I cried while holding it. It was the moment everything made sense. I finally understood why my husband hadn't submitted our marriage certificate. Understanding everything, I felt pathetic for having taken my stepson's words at face value and despaired over such a piece of paper without fully trusting my husband until the end. A week later, I moved out of the house I had lived in with my husband. It was sad to leave the home where we shared so many ups and downs. But part of me felt refreshed to be free from that stepson who trampled all over the love I had given. I never wanted to deal with someone who couldn't even understand his own father properly. Well, he's a stranger now, so there shouldn't be any more interaction, I thought. However, the next day, I saw an unbelievable number of calls from my stepson. He must have learned the truth. After all that bravado, to contact me so easily. I felt both astonished and somewhat refreshed. Ignoring dozens of calls, I realized it was all pointless. The name of my stepson kept appearing on my phone to an annoying extent. I should have quickly deleted his number and blocked him. Though I thought there would be no more interactions, knowing my stepson. He might overturn any situation if it suited him. His predictable actions were almost amusing. Even after declaring he would cut ties, he contacts me this insistently. Because the situation has changed. How ridiculous. I muttered to my continuously ringing phone. My stepson wouldn't give up. Why couldn't he use this persistence for something else? He must live a life depending on others. No matter how many times he called, I had no intention of answering. Full of anger and anxiety, he must be overwhelmed. But that had nothing to do with me. He chose to be a stranger to me. What could he possibly want from me now? No matter what he said or did, my feelings wouldn't waver anymore. Ignoring the incessant ringing of the phone felt good. I felt cruel enough to not want to be on my bad side. I realized how much a person could dismiss others. Finally, the phone stopped ringing abruptly. He gave up. Seriously, what a nuisance. Relieved that the nuisance calls had ended, my peace was short-lived. An hour later, I was about to have an unwanted reunion. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. No way. But it was exactly that. The house chime was frantically pressed. And as I peered through the door viewer, there stood my stepson with a demonic expression. Wow, he can really go this far. Impressive action in a way. Hey. I know you're there. Open up. His voice betrayed his panic even though he was shouting. You're hiding something. What's going on? Ding dong. Ding dong. Bang. Bang. He even started banging on the door. Such a nuisance. His behavior was like a debt collector's, desperately cornered. But it had nothing to do with me. I didn't want to involve myself. Bang. Bang. I'll break the door down. Open up, hey. Dealing with him was a hassle, but I opened the door, fearing a neighbor might call the police. As soon as I cracked the door, a hand appeared in the gap, pushing it open forcefully. Why didn't you answer the phone? How could you not notice after so many calls? How dull are your senses? This was his opening line upon seeing me. Listening further was unpleasant. I could go on and on with complaints, and I was quite irritated. But losing my composure would make me no better than my stepson. I spoke calmly. What? What do you want? What could a stranger possibly want? I asked with a hint of sarcasm, feeling no sympathy anymore. It's not just about what. You knew everything, didn't you? You hid it all. And you still call yourself a parent? That's the lowest. What? Parent? What convenient talk. He can't take responsibility for his own words. Did he forget how he insulted me in front of everyone and declared I wasn't a parent? I couldn't understand a person like my stepson. Stop being silent. You put me through this. He came at me with childish words and a fierce demeanor. His face so desperate it almost evoked pity. Of course, I knew what he was talking about, but I decided to play dumb. It felt like a waste to engage with him seriously. I don't understand what you want to say. What about that thing? And who are you calling a parent? I don't have any children. I continued to provoke him as he glared at me, grinding his teeth. Actually, I might have had a son once, but that must have been my misunderstanding. So I don't have any children. And I really don't understand what you're trying to say. Sorry. I intended to remain calm. But I realized I might have spoken in a rather childish manner. This was still rather mild, though. Don't play dumb. You knew Dad had a huge debt. How can you act so clueless? There's no way you didn't know something that major about your own spouse. It's truly despicable of you to ignore your own son who is in such trouble. Just because it's inconvenient for you. Which mouth is spewing such nonsense? The desperation on my stepson's face and the absurdity of his accusations were so ridiculous that it was hard to keep from laughing. Of course, I knew about my husband's debt. But this immature retaliation only fueled my anger further. Marriage? You were the one who said I was just a housekeeper and not a parent, right? I was just a housekeeper. A housekeeper doesn't know such things. Too bad. Don't be defiant. What are you talking about? Explain yourself properly. Dealing with my unrelenting stepson was exhausting. Continuing to argue would only lead to an endless back and forth. Wanting to get rid of him quickly, I sighed and reluctantly decided to explain. My husband was self-employed and his business was doing well. We lived a relatively affluent life. Slowly, I told my stepson the truth, as he couldn't believe there was such a large debt. Your father became a guarantor for a friend who was starting a business. But that person vanished, leaving behind a huge debt. Since that person became unreachable, your father had no choice but to pay back the enormous debt. What? A guarantor? That's none of my business. And you knew about it and kept quiet? Don't mess with me. I continued my explanation unfazed. Your father was a kind man. I wish he had been less trusting of others. He knew his nature might get him into trouble someday. That's why he didn't register our marriage officially. To ensure I wouldn't be burdened if something happened. We were supposed to share these responsibilities as a married couple. What a load of nonsense. Do you expect me to believe that? Why do I have to clean up this mess? You handle it. No matter what I said, my stepson wouldn't accept it. Reluctantly, I showed him a letter from my husband. Upon reading the letter, My stepson started shaking violently. Damn it. Fix this. He kept repeating the same words, acting like a child throwing a tantrum. And I had no inclination to reach out to him. If it hadn't been for that day at the funeral, even knowing this truth might have made me want to support him. That's the situation, so please go home. There's nothing more to say to a stranger. Thank you for your efforts. I returned the words my stepson had hurled at me during the funeral. I won't accept this. Didn't you hear? You and I are strangers. If you don't stop, I'll report you to the police for harassment and extortion. It seemed my seriousness finally got through to him, and he grumbled as he left. The exhaustion felt like it was years in the making. But my spirit was surprisingly clear. Thanks to my husband's love, I had managed to fend off the devil. My husband, knowing something might happen to him, had made a gift of his assets to me in my own account, ensuring I had a considerable fortune. This ordeal made me feel the love my husband had for me. It taught me that a marriage certificate was just a piece of paper. What truly matters between people is the time and memories shared. The time I spent with my husband is my most precious treasure. Thank you. My heart finally found peace. Meanwhile, my stepson, having inherited all of my husband's property, also took on the massive debt and ended up having to sell the house and everything else, leading to a life of penury. This was probably because he never made any effort and didn't engage with people properly. Later, he apparently went begging to my husband's relatives for money. But of course, they wanted nothing to do with him. Originally, my stepson had relied on our family's wealth and dropped out of college, never seriously looking for a job and only working odd jobs occasionally. Now, it seems he's living day to day. Well, it's no longer my concern. I vowed to live the rest of my life cherishing the memories with my husband, who had cherished me, not splurging but living meaningfully.